and our guests online. Very good morning to you, and we welcome you to this much anticipated event. My name is Esther Osigwe, and I'll be your host for today. We promise that this event is going to be very insightful and inspirational to everyone within the cold chain sector. Today, we're here to launch a new service offering and also to celebrate innovation and progress, and the transformation of the cold chain space and the future as well. So for our guests who are present in person, please to my left, we have an emergency exit in case of a fire. And also if you need to use the washroom, please, that would be on the ground floor by the reception. To kick off this event, I would like to welcome on stage a man whose vision and leadership has, brought the innovation, this great service to Nigeria. And I would like to call on our MD, Tega Yotim, just to give us some insights and, how the remarkable journey has been since Figorr's inception. So please join me in welcoming Tega.
Thank you, Esther. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here this morning. For everyone that drove through Lagos traffic and got here, we're really grateful for you to be with us today. And for those online, we also want to thank you for taking time out of your day or your schedule to share this day with us. I would like to thank everyone for being here today. But I would like to, and my job today, this morning, is to really just take you down the journey of Figorr, or what was formerly called Great. I know a number of people here today or people online are familiar with how we started and have been instrumental to the growth or the success of the business. So I'll just go over that for those who may not have that visibility. So please, can I get a clicker? Thank you. So for most of, I would assume a lot of people don't know, but the business really started off in 2019. I can see Dr. Stephanie here smiling because I remember when she came to CC Hub in Yaba, when we were carrying the boxes up and down, and then, you collected our details and said, let's talk, and that was kind of like, you're one of the people that, helped us grow in the industry because we had a lot of ideas, but when you start to meet the Nigerian market, or I'll say the Nigerian market in particular, because it can really get crazy. So we started off in 2019 we started off in 2019, myself and a buddy at that time called Richard. And the goal of the business was to basically just help businesses reduce losses in the agricultural sector at that time. We were actually on a mandate to save tomatoes. I think that's what we're actually saying at that particular point in time. So, but as you know, like every other business, you evolve and then you identify what's actually obtainable in the market, and then you begin to change. So at that time, the business was also called Great, and eventually we changed to Figorr this year because our mandate sort of still the same, but kind of evolved into something bigger, where we use data to protect perishables, as you can see in the in the first slide. But now, when you look at losses that happen across the cold chain, which is the sector that we really play in, there's huge amount of losses that happen. Huge amount of losses. And so, as a business, our goal was to help businesses maybe improve on the operation side, improve on the people side, improve on the infrastructure side to reduce these losses. And, we can go on about, the amount of losses that happen in the healthcare sector. We can go on about the losses that happen in the agricultural sector, but there are major losses. And so as a business, we looked into the sector and tried to figure out why these losses were happening. And we could pinpoint it to three things, right? There's an infrastructure problem, which we talk about every day. There's lack of infrastructure, there's lack of cold trucks, there's lack of cold rooms, and so on and so forth. There's a people problem, in the sense that, we started to work with a few organizations and businesses where, even how to pack vaccines, for example, is not done properly. And that's where, the knowledge gap comes in. And then there's also a process problem, which means that the way the organizations, maybe they don't allow things like proper packing of vaccines, or they don't allow things like pre-cooling to happen before they pack and things like that. So these were the three fundamental problems that businesses that we saw that led to huge amount of losses in the sector. And so this inadvertently was affecting businesses. Businesses were losing products. Businesses were losing revenue by the impact of that. We also saw businesses being not accessing insurance based off on, one of the words which I learned, which was standard exclusions, right? Because when you're a guy in the agricultural sector and you want to insure your yogurt or things like that, they tell you, oh, this is a standard exclusion, because factually there's a lot of losses happening in the sector, right? And so this was one of the major challenges that businesses were facing. And then we also saw that there was not a lot of actionable data for management personnel. And so we built a business first that was providing real-time monitoring for businesses, just to give them visibility into what's happening on a day-to-day basis. But then the business has evolved from just simply doing that into three major pillars. One we'll call the infrastructure access, where we provide access to different infrastructure, cold chain infrastructure, cold rooms, cold trucks, at different locations across the country. My colleague will be telling you more about that subsequently. And then we also have the real-time monitoring, because it's important for you to actually have data. Without data, you're unable to make the necessary decisions that could help improve on your processes, or for you to prove that there's no willful negligence. And this applies to insurance. And then also, to extend that, we also went into developing the necessary partnerships that are key to helping businesses that we serve access insurance. So in a nutshell, our mandate as a business is to help protect perishables. And we do so by the use of data. That's pretty much what Figorr does today. And just to show how far we've come since 2019, I think this is always a slide I'm really, really proud of to always talk about. So in Africa, we've actually deployed technology across 7 countries. This includes Nigeria, Ghana, East Africa. We're growing significantly in East Africa, Ethiopia, Tanzania, Uganda, South Africa. And more recently, this year, we started to expand into, not expand, but deploy technology in places like Saudi Arabia, United Kingdom, as well as Netherlands, which is a significant milestone. As of this year, we've also tracked good, over $600 million, coming up on almost $1 billion, hopefully next year. And it's also a lot of goods that we've also tracked. So it's a lot of volume of transactions that we're helping to support on a day-to-day basis as a business. And we would not be where we are without saying a big thank you to a huge number of companies that we support, and organizations that also support us, like the likes of Otakwa, ARC, for Tangerine also coming on board our partnerships for the insurance bit. But we're super, super grateful for a lot of all these businesses that have supported us, as well as worked with us. So yeah, so that's been our journey at Figorr, the transition between Greek to Figorr. And thank you very much as we move on to the next segment. Thank you.
Thank you, Tega. We couldn't be more excited about what the future holds for the cold chain space. As we progress, I would appreciate if everyone can actively participate, share your questions, suggestions, your excitement on social media as well. And to kick off to the main reason why we're here, I would like to call on my colleague, Samuel Lapaniko, to moderate the panel session for today.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Good morning to those online. Good morning to those here. So we're moving on to the major part of our meeting here today, which is our panel session. So I'll be inviting our panelists on stage in no particular order, but you also spare me approximately 20 seconds to read a bit of your profile. So first will be Mr. Alexander Isong, who is the president of the Organization for Technology Advancement of Cold Chain in West Africa. Mr. Alexander is the president of Otakwa, which was established on June 1st, 2018, with the objective of promoting and facilitating the development of the cold chain system in West Africa. He's the founder and CEO of Alix Limited, an indigenous cold chain company. Alexander also serves as the chairman of the Cold Chain Logistics Transportation Committee for 12 northern states in Nigeria, for the National Stakeholders Committee for Government Promotion and Regulation of Tomatoes in Nigeria. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Alexander on stage. Thank you. Once again, in particular order, I'm also going to call on Mr. Abayomi Oluremi Judah. Mr. Abayomi Oluremi Judah is the Executive Director, Technical Operations at Tangerine General Insurance Limited, and is based at the head office in Lagos, Nigeria. Judah trained and worked as an actuary in the UK and Europe for over 14 years and has over 9 years experience in the African insurance market. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Economics from the University of Warwick and is an associate of the Institute of Actuaries. Judah has vast experience working with risks, business development, and finance. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Judah on stage. And also we have Dr. Stephanie Oluyide. She's a manager, private sector membership platform, Africa Resource Center for Excellence. Dr. Stephanie Oluyide is a public health professional with over 14 years of experience working in public and private health sectors with expertise in project management, team building, relationship management, human resource capacity building, report writing, and data management. She worked with the Lagos State government as a clinician supporting service delivery at the primary health level. She also worked with Adova PI, formerly known as Fort Oil, as an optical care. She also worked at the Private Sector Health Alliance of Nigeria as an associate supporting and overseeing various public health initiatives. She currently works at RKSM as a manager. Please help me welcome Dr. Stephanie on stage. And our last panelist is Tega Yotim. Tega Yotim is the founder and MD of Figorr, a business that builds technology to enable last mile delivery of temperature sensitive produce. He's an impact-driven entrepreneur with a strong background in information communication engineering from Covenant University. He's managed multiple development projects across diverse sectors, implementing technology that drives positive change. Tega is keen and passionate about solving major cold chain challenges using technology. Please help me welcome Tega Yotim on stage. All right, thank you very much. So we've done a bit of the intro, and basically what we're talking about surrounds empowering businesses in the cold chain sector with risk management policies and enhanced visibility. And considering the fact that we're all playing a part, either directly working with the people that move these goods or trying to protect them, I would typically like to start out with you, Dr. Stephanie, ladies first. So due to how 2023 has gone, we've seen a lot of growth, we've seen a lot of trends despite the economic situation. So I typically want to know what would be the current trends in the cold chain industry in Nigeria that you kind of like pick out as positive.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I hope you can hear me. Okay, thank you so much. I think really for me, I will be speaking more from the health sector, given that's my background. I think a lot has happened in the health sector in the last couple of years, really, when we talk about cold chain, mostly from the government perspective in terms of there's been a great transition from, using the regular fridges that require electricity to now focusing more on solar drive refrigerators. And so the government is really trying to push more of the solar direct drive cold chain equipment down to primary healthcare facilities across the country. I mean, as you can understand, the reason for that being there are many facilities where electricity is a problem. So if you can move them to using more of solar driven cold chain equipment, where obviously the likes of our vaccines that our children are receiving at the facility for the most common diseases like measles, cholera, and the likes are properly being stored in cold chain that don't require as much electricity, the better for us, and obviously the more likely that the vaccines will remain potent. This is also important. I mean, in the current situation where I'm sure all of us received the COVID vaccine. The COVID vaccines are stored in PHCs. The PHCs that you went to receive the vaccines are the PHCs I'm referring to that are now being transitioned to solar direct drive cold chain equipment. Now we also have additional vaccines that have been added in. I think Lagos State recently started a vaccine drive around HPV, so the human papilloma virus. That was just on Monday, this Monday. That's the same cold chain equipment that's required to store those vaccines. So from the government perspective, in terms of cold chain, there's been a push towards solar because obviously we know the peculiarities that we have in Nigeria when it comes to electricity. And we need those vaccines to be potent when the children and mothers eventually do show up at the PHCs. Another thing that's I think big in the health sector is also, I believe, the fridge tags. So there's been a lot of push around also making sure that the fridges also have the tags because obviously, like I said, the most important thing for us in the health sector when it comes to cold chain is ultimately that whatever we're storing there remains potent because at the end of the day, that could be the difference between life and death for a patient. The likes of, I can see PPNL here as well. They store the likes of snake venom, which ends up at that facility. If that facility doesn't have proper cold chain, snake venom might not be something that you need every day, but the day somebody needs it, it better be working, or that person is going to be dead. So for us is how do we make sure that the cold chain is as optimal as can be, given the issues and the challenges that Nigeria has, so that at the end of the day, when we do go to the facilities, there is that potent vaccine that everyone can access. I think another thing to mention is also we're also looking at, I know the government is also looking at introduction of malaria vaccines as well. So I think that's something that's coming up next year that will now be, I'm sure people will be very excited to hear that. And we've been talking about malaria for forever and ever. So vaccine will also be something that will be good for us that will be good for the environment generally. I think I'll pause here.
Thank you. I would like to hear the input of Mr. Isong.
Okay. Good morning, all. I was listening to able doctors, so I'm not going to delve into the medical part of cold chain as she has done justice to it, but I could still add more to help. The medical cold chain in Nigeria is much, much developed than the ones that we spend a lot of energy on, which is the agri part. Because, because it's life and death, government has put a lot of energy into it. And I would expect the people in the medical field to, the question is, how's the cold chain moved? I would expect the medical field or the medical cold chain to have developed better and faster than it has right now, because I know a lot about the way vaccines and medicine is being moved in Nigeria. We know that when the medicine gets to Nigeria, it's in cold chain, but when it leaves the airport, it becomes a different ballgame. And in the northern part of Nigeria, where there's a lot of incidents of people that need medicines in cold chain environment, there's that gap that needs to be filled, because I see the way they move it, and I can tell you for a fact that most of those medicine, by the time they get where they are going, they turn to placebos. And I'm expecting that you plug that gap, Mr. Tega. That's the business opening for you, very big. Whereby you can go to the states in the north through MPC. They have this long, the federal government MPCHDA. That's one long acronym that takes care of that. So what you should do is to approach them and approach the state government, and they should be able to give you, audience for you to be able to solve that, for you to be able to track the contractors they give it to, because they give those things to contractors to carry to primary medical care centers, and I can tell you they put them on top motorbikes and zoom off they go. So if I don't know what you're going to provide for them, tracking or whatever, so that you're able to solve that. So that's my 1 pence on that, even though I have more and I don't want to keep you here forever. So let me go to the one that really affects government and Nigeria in growing revenue, which is the agri part. I'm very happy that Figorr, let's Figorr now, because I knew you when you were in grades. So Figorr has taken up the task of um, tracking produce, and with that, it has given us a lot of comfort because you're a Nigerian company. Because most of the solutions that we usually go to look for, they come from outside the country, and I know they don't understand our terrain, because what might be A for them might be C for us in Nigeria. So now that you're in this field, I know that first entry for you is good, and you'll get a lot of business. I already use your business, and most of the members of our association would use your business. And the federal government, like now, we have two different committees, bodies in the federal government, one in the budget and planning, food systems pathway, which we are trying to inculcate regulations and standards. So regulation and standard in coaching basically involves a lot of things you are doing right now, because for us to be able to keep the integrity of that produce and be able to enforce that regulation, we must know the temperature that is inside that particular system. So that being said, the federal government of Nigeria is awake to what coaching can bring to the economy and the domino effect it's going to have on the economy when it's applied in agriculture. Agriculture as it is right now, it's only a few companies that are big that are using tracking and tracking systems, and we in the advocacy part and in the business part, we are trying to make sure that tracking becomes an ubiquitous part of agriculture, just like the way coaching is going to be. So we have a long way to go, but we've already started. At least the farmers know what tracking is. The middlemen know what tracking is. And I'm very happy that what you have brought to us now has made our job easy for us. And the insurance company can now start tying into what you're doing. The insurance company maybe they don't want to do that business, or they don't understand it, but the onus is on we as an advocacy group and you as a business to make them understand what your solution is going to bring to the table. So when I say coaching moving forward from point A to point B, if I take a scale of 1 to 10, if we had started at -5, because that's what I usually say, we are now approaching -2. So by the time we get to 0, all of you will know that we have gotten to 0. So that is where we are at now. So year on year, we have been progressing, but we are not there yet because we are still scratching the surface. I can go on forever. And this is what I do. So let me leave it at that. And
thank you very much. So that should take us back to you, Doctor, because he just pointed out. Yes. He just pointed out. He actually went ahead to point out the development and some challenges, and also went ahead to even point one challenge in your own industry, which is sometimes would call accountability. So what would you tell us some of the challenges you currently face?
So, I mean, I think, to be honest, what he pointed out is something that we do know does happen. Reality is, like I think Tiger pointed out very clearly in his presentation, sometimes there's a personnel issue. Sometimes it's also the processes, like who is supervising the process. Like you rightly said, the product can come into us at the best, at its best, right? But by the time it gets to the facility, how are we 100% sure that it is still at its best, right? Because it has gone through so many levels. I mean, from national, it goes to the state cold store, from the state cold store, sometimes goes to another cold store, before it finally then goes to the facility, before the patient actually receives it. Now, what he was talking about is basically, how are we sure that we're tracking as it is moving? The truth is, I don't know if that is happening. I won't lie. Maybe between national and state, Tega probably even knows more about that than I do, because he did quite a bit of work with them around the COVID vaccines at the agency he was talking about, which is the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. So they are the agency in charge of everything to do with vaccines in Nigeria. So any vaccines coming into the country technically goes through them, at least human vaccines. And so now they have a direct delivery system with a third-party logistics person that takes it to the state cold stores. From the point of when it gets to the states, is now the responsibility of the states to ensure that what we have delivered to you gets to your facilities in the format or in the constitution that was sent to you. Now, in different states, there are so many different things happening. And I think that's what he alluded to. I mean, there's I don't even know what to call it. There's an array of different methods or processes that people are using to get the vaccines to the facilities, and sometimes they're questionable. Because sometimes people are thinking, the typical Nigerian, at least it got there, right? It sure got there. Whether or not it got there in the right condition is another conversation for another day. But did we get it there? Yes. Okay, so we can take that off. At least it got there. Now, the second stage is what he's referring to. How do we now add on that layer of beyond just getting it there? Can we make sure that it actually gets there in the right potency, which is where the tracking comes in? Can we have people at the different levels keep an eye on, whether it's with a tool that's, like I know they have the tags that you can put in the in the boxes with the while the product is moving, and somebody is being alerted if there's some temperature spikes, things like that, are things that obviously can be put in place. But also, I mean, obviously figuring out how we actually move it is another conversation as well. There have been various projects that have been tried where states have tried to do direct delivery to facilities as well. So get a 3PL to deliver directly from the state cold store to the facilities. Now, obviously, many times cost is the problem, because then maybe there's a project that's paying for it, and then the project ends, and then um, there's nobody to take up the cost, and then at that point, the government is saying, this thing is too expensive. Can we cut the price? But obviously there's a standard that the 3PL is also trying to keep to. And I'm sure, like Pega will say, I mean, the cost of even maintaining a cold truck, there's only so much you can do in terms of cutting the price. And even with the price of fuel now, are you joking? Where are we cutting the price to? So that's why they end up using all sorts of routes or methods or ways to try and make sure it gets there. Is a truck driver, is an Okada man, is a keke, is the person that works at the facility coming to collect it with their personal car. Then after that, they go to the markets and they go and do other errands, and then they eventually bring it back to the facility. So that's why there's a lot of things going on. But like he said, is one step is making sure that it's actually getting to the facilities and patients can actually access it. The second step is now making sure that it gets there in the right condition, which is where the likes of Pega with their technology then come in to add that service. And obviously is also making sure that the government also sees the value of these things. And I think it's presenting that data to them to see that, look, it's very important. I mean, if your whole focus is on making sure that people don't die and that the vaccines get there in the right potency, then you should be concerned about the way it is being transported and whether or not you're having temperature spikes along the way, and whether or not people are even opening the box on the way and taking out stuff and affecting the whole. So it's also maybe how we present the information to the leadership for them to see the value. So those are my 2 cents.
Yeah, thank you very much. So that brings me to you, Mr. Bayomi. Looking at the challenges they've pointed out so far, we know typically insurance companies, I wouldn't want to use the word shy away, but I would say they sort of like distance themselves with a maybe 10-foot pole when it comes to insuring this sort of goods. Would you say some of the things she has mentioned, such as tracking, poor management, and personnel contribute to that? Or you have other insights you can share with us?
Shy away, distance themselves. I'm not sure which one I prefer. I think the comments that the doctor has raised are they're exactly the reasons why insurance companies use that phrase, like the standard exclusions. For us, when an event is pretty much going to happen, so if you don't store certain goods or medicines within the range of temperatures that they're supposed to be stored at, the potency is going to be eroded. So it's a certainty. It's not an expectation anymore. If your goods, your temperature-sensitive goods are not being transported at the right temperature, certain things are going to happen. So for me, that's why, as someone who is very passionate about the insurance industry, I always see the role of the insurance industry as promoting resilience. Now, whether it's healthcare or food security, it's all about promoting resilience. And what you're doing now, what you're bringing into place in terms of tracking, ensuring that we can transport these, be it food products or vaccines, make sure it gets to the end user in the state that's going to be more potent. I think for me, that's now exciting. Now insurance can come in. now we can play the role that we're really supposed
So I would say, in other words, you mostly rely on data.
to. Absolutely. I mean, where data is our lifeblood. We absolutely need that data. We need the understanding of what's happened. We need to know the experience in other regions. We need to know the experience in our region. We need to know how we can plug it in with the systems and the processes we currently have. And for me, the insurance industry is really there not just to take on the risk, but also to improve it. So our role is to make sure that yes, we've identified these risks, but now how can we make it better? How can we make it better from a people point of view, from a resource point of view, from a process point of view? Then when things do go wrong, how do we now step in?
So typically, when you talk about data, do we have like specific set of data you're looking at, or probably distance covered, or the sort of goods, temperatures? What sort of data do you look out?
I think the data is from end to end, from the point of even when the goods are being produced, who is actually producing the goods, who's the original owner, to the point where the goods are being packaged, what sort of packaging are they using, what sort of packaging should they be using, to when the goods are being transported, who is doing the transporting, what sort of vehicles are they using, to when it's being stored, where are they storing it, who's managing the storage, and how is it getting to the end user. So across the whole value chain, I mean, there's a lot of data that needs to be tracked.
All right, thank you. So that brings me to you, Tega. Talking about data, what role does Figorr play in this, and how active is it?
Okay, so for us, I would like to take a step back to why we started focusing on data as a company. I think when we started off, we had built a refrigerator. I think that's when I met Stephanie. We had built a refrigerator with an IoT component in it, and it was difficult to scale that sort of product. But that's from a business point of view. But we started to see the need for business owners to track in real time what the storage conditions of products were, where the locations of the products were at the particular point in time, as well as moisture content, right? Because these were three factors that affect the lifespan of any commodity. So when you talk about location, we have incidences where drivers are taking vehicles to a particular location, they divert it, they pull out a few things. So location was important. Temperature was important because there are products that kind of self-deteriorate when they're exposed to certain conditions or humidity as well. And so that's the data we've been collecting for the past, 3 years, right? And we started to look at, and then we started to run into a lot of companies who were not having access to insurance, right? Because when you look at Nigeria's data, it's bad, right? We can talk from now till next week about, oh, this person lost this amount of products because, there's no electricity, or this person lost this amount of products because somebody forgot to turn on the generator. I mean, one of our clients, yeah, there was when they adopted our solution, I think that particular night we were doing a pilot, and so when power went out, they got SMS notifications, and they were like, "Hey, we can now tell the generator guy to turn it on." So because there was no data, how do you get people to insure? Because without data, in a way, cold chain is set. There's a certainty of risk. You get what I'm saying? Without data to prove to anybody, because I think from an insurance point, and you're the insurance person, so you correct me if I'm wrong. Insurance are looking at probability, right? If the probability is like 50%, I don't think you want to take on that risk. So I think what we're doing as a company is using data to show that the way Stephanie does things is different from the way Tega does things, and the way Tega does things is different from the way any other person would do it. So having that individual data as well as market data to help support. So that's what we pretty much do to try and help access to insurance.
Thank you very much. So that brings me back to you, Mr. Isong. So when we talk about tech, or we talk about cold chain generally in Nigeria, it feels like we're going back to, let's say, 1960 when we got independence. And generally, when we talk about this sort of tech, it sounds like a make-believe, more like a Nollywood movie. So maybe we could just have an insight from your own end, how actually you've used this so far, and also the experience.
Okay, thank you so much. Before I answer that question, let me digress a bit. I was listening to the back and forth between the doctor, the insurance man, and the data man. Um, I happen to sit on a committee, Federal Ministry of Health, where we are doing um, we are rewriting the policy on food security and food safe and medicine safety. What Tega is doing now is part and parcel of that. So all these kinds of it would make an insurance man insure because the law says he must insure. So it has gone. So the reason why I didn't speak about it at first is because we are doing the validation exercise on the 14th of this month, and it will be taken to the House of Assembly where it will pass into law. Then when it becomes law, what Tega is doing is not a fancy thing. It becomes a part and parcel of the process. Yeah. Then the insurance man, because the Nigerian Agricultural Insurance Corporation, NAIC, because they are Nigerian, they will start to insure based on that. So the private sector, because I'm sure it's private sector, is not NAIC. It would have to jump on board. Now, the problem we had with that particular part, because I was the one that wrote it, is that who is going to enforce it? The enforcement became a problem because, like anything Nigerian, everybody wants to claim it. Customs want to claim it, police, Federal Road Safety Commission, quarantine, Federal Ministry of Health, Agric. Everybody says it's my turf, it's my turf, it's my turf. So at the end of the day, we are going to enforce it, even if it's the Boy Scout that will enforce it, but we are going to enforce it. So because of that enforcement, it's going to bring control to what they are doing in vaccines. Because when there's a body that can check that, okay, this box of vaccines left Ikeja going to say Mokwa at -2 degrees. We're expecting that it gets to Mokwa at -2 degrees and it was not breached along the way. So there's somebody to enforce. So if that thing gets to where it's going, that is not, will destroy the product. That's the law, to destroy the product. So when you destroy the product, the person that wants to send it next time will make sure that that product is going to have that integrity of temperature to get to its destination. So that is a work that has been done. It is not like, we're not trying to invent the wheel here. It's going to make Tega's job easy. It's going to make insurance man's job easy, even if he doesn't want to insure. Well, there are lots of ways that Nigerian government can now twist you to insure. And for the doctor, it will make it easier for her to know that, okay, the vaccine that was given to the little baby at, say, Sokoto is the same vaccine that came through Montreal Airport. Because I can tell you, I keep saying this thing, that what I see in the north is not what you people think it's supposed to be. Because if you run an assay on that vaccine, you will find out that the composition of that vaccine is almost close to water. You understand? So that being said, government is doing a lot in that direction. And maybe in the next 2-3 months, by the time it goes through all the processes, I would share with Tega, because Tega is a member of our organization. It's an in-house thing. I'll give him, make him understand that, look, this is what I've done for your business to grow. And your business will grow. Not only because it's your business, because it's a necessity for the country. So for cold chain and data, they go together. Any country in the world that you go to, data and cold chain goes together. It's just like egg, yolk, and you cannot do cold chain without, how are you going to be able to tell your customer or whoever it is that you understand what I mean? So basically, let me now slide into the question you asked me, that why data, is it a new technology? No, we don't see it in Nigeria as fancy technology. It's just that we don't have the wherewithal to do it. That is why it looks like it's fancy. If I take you to my farmers in Kano, they will tell you a lot about data. The data loggers I got from Figorr is still reading grids. And the farmer, I can't speak English. He only speaks Hausa. But he can tell me everything on that graph in his own Hausa language, which means the technology understands it. It begins to know. It begins to tell you that if this thing goes up, it means this will do this. If this thing goes this way, it means it will do this. So it is not new. It is just for us to enforce it by force so that everybody will begin to use it. So when we enforce it by force, it will get to a stage where it will become ubiquitous and its business will not become just like any normal business. So the technology for us in the field is not fancy, is not, so let me disabuse your mind on that. It's a normal thing. They will tell you what it is, even if they can't speak English. So that is for that. Let me leave it at that.
All right. I would like to go to Doctor, but hold on to that, Mr. Bayomi, because he said something that I want to pull up to you. So he mentioned if you're moving goods, for instance, and then they enforce this, they will destroy your goods. And we know typically when you take up GIT, that is covered. So we're looking at a situation where in future we could have regulation that says if you want to insure cold chain goods, you must have this sort of, let's say, partnership with companies like Figorr to track your goods. Because if I do GIT and then I'm moving goods from point A to point B, and because of the fact that I don't have Figorr's data loggers on it and it is being destroyed on the road, I'll come to you for claim.
I think if, as an insurance company, you enter into an agreement that doesn't have, let's say, Figorr's data loggers as a requirement, I think that that would be a big gap. Let me just put it that way. For us, if we're going to go into that sort of agreement or have that sort of policy, it would be a standard requirement. Because I think, as been mentioned by everyone on the panel, you need to see the data. You need to understand at what point it left. You need to understand the temperatures at which it left. You need to be able to validate whatever is now brought to the insurance company, that at XYZ temperature, this happened along this route at this time. So you need all that data. And for me, it even goes beyond data as well. I know we're talking about data and we're talking about the goods, but also those who are transporting the goods. We need a lot of education. Everyone needs to understand the consequences of certain things happening on the goods that are being transported. So a whole risk-aware culture needs to now come into the cold chain industry, all the way from those who are packaging, to those who are transporting, to those who are manning. Everyone needs to understand the risk.
Thank you very much. So over to you, Doctor. Back to the question I actually asked Mr. Isong. Looking at the way you've used, let's say, Figorr's data loggers and other technologies, what would you say has been your experience thus far?
So I haven't personally used it,
Yeah.
but I know that the states use it, and I know some of the companies use it, and I think it's sort of the same as what everyone has been saying. It's important to have the data. Without the data, you can't even. How do you, even capacity building for your team? How do you know who is doing the wrong thing, so that you can even train them properly, or do supportive supervision or whatever? You need the data. It's just, I think the reality is that data is not a new thing. It's just how we choose to gather the data and making sure that the quality of the data as well. So I think that's another problem we have generally in the public health sector. Sometimes we push a lot of technology and we say we want data, but then we forget the second layer, which is the quality of the data. Data is not hard now. How many do you want us to say 10 children were vaccinated? It's not hard. Just write 10 now. Even though, it doesn't matter. But the second layer is the quality of the data, which is something that I think in the health sector is still a big gap in terms of quality. And I think sometimes it's maybe, I think something you touched on is sometimes that supervision and that like someone sort of keeping an eye is sometimes a challenge, because I'm sure we all know in the government sector, the hands are few in the reality. When you look at the health sector anyways, and in the government health space, the hands are few, at least the capable hands are few. And so all that sort of keeping an eye, tracking, supervision, making sure people are doing things right is sometimes a challenge. And then also there's an added issue of you train someone and then the next month they are gone because they've circulated them again. And then you go to the facility that you trained somebody before, and there's a completely new person there that doesn't know anything about what you're talking about. So even that continuous capacity building and training is also something that sometimes is a challenge. And I think maybe just the leadership also realizing that these things are the issues. Data is important, but training is important, and hand holding and supervision and all of that is also still important. But in terms of the technology and the data and all of that, I think, like you said, it's not new necessarily. It's just how, I mean, what data we're gathering, the quality of data, and how we're using the data. That's really the new, if I can say, new thing, and how we use it to make decisions. I think that's the
All right. So when we talk about probably stepping into the future of coaching, we first now would come to mind is growth and sustainability. And for that to happen for you and for Mr. Isong, that would mean at least getting some level of insurance coverage. That is where, let's say, Figorr comes into play, providing the data. So, Pega, for the data you gather from them, and also for it, because it's more like you gathering to feed. Because I assume how this would work is Tangerine would work with you to get data at the point of underwriting, as well as data at the point of let's say processing a claim. So what sort of data do you gather? What is the quality of data? And how do you ensure that this data stays intact and accurate?
Yeah, thank you. It's a lot of questions, but okay. What we do right now is we capture two data sets broadly. So we do both quantitative and qualitative data. Esther would speak subsequently about how we do capture that. Quantitative data helps with things like theft, for example, right? While you have qualitative data, which now refers to things like how is this product being stored? How is this product being transported? What's the moisture level of the particular location where this product is being stored? So those are some of the data sets that we collect. Now, on the side of how we're working with Tangerine, I think as a business, it's our job, first things first, to recommend the winners, if you get what I mean, in the sense that from data sets, you're able to determine customers that are significantly risky versus customers that are not. And what we're trying to do is introduce algorithm to be able to do that. So depending on the number of excursions, so when I say excursions, it means if I need to store, say, vaccines or oxytocins that need to be stored between 2 to 8 degrees, if the products are exposed for elongated periods of time, how long was it exposed? You can calculate things like MKT and so on and so forth to determine the viability. And based off on that, you can naturally pick, winners and losers, right? Sorry, not losers, but people that are probably not doing things the right way. And that also goes up to perishable products like fresh fruits and vegetables, meat, yogurt, and so on and so forth, because they have storage conditions. Vaccines is 2 to 8 degrees. Yogurts need to be, between, I think, about 2 to about 8 degrees, very similar temperatures. Or I have fresh fruits that are, about 15 degrees maximum, that sort of thing. So we're building our algorithm around that just to be able to filter, right? So if I'm storing vaccines in this particular location, if I'm storing fresh fruits in this particular location, how many hours was it above or was it below? So you have risk of freezing, you have risk of exposure to high conditions. And then based off on that, we're able to filter out this guy, the probability of you losing is higher with this dude, versus, this other person. But that also goes by saying that I also need to mention that, when the customer is trying to access this data, the customer has to give the insurance company the authority to access this sort of data to be able to do the validation. In most cases, we've seen that insurance companies, like I like to say, don't want to typically underwrite this kind of product, but the data gives them the extra leverage to do so. And I think Mr. Judah has said something similar. So those are the data sets we put together. That's how we filter through to kind of determine the winners and the future winners. Yeah, that's how.
All right, thank you. So before I come back to Mr. Issa and Dr. Stephanie, I would like to go back to you, Mr. Bayomi, because the whole idea is to get what can actually protect their business partners in ensuring that the business grows. So typically we've looked at two major scenarios. One is them storing goods in their warehouses or their cold stores. And then the second is, like Mr. Isong had mentioned, is them transporting these goods, as well as Dr. Stephanie mentioned. So typically in these two scenarios, what policies do you think would definitely cover for them? Also, rather cover their goods properly. What policies do you have in mind?
I think
really what we would be looking at is, I mean, of course, there'll still be engagement and discussions to specifically design, but generally you'd be looking at an all risk policy. So you'd want to be completely covered for the goods themselves if they're damaged, or if the excursion happens and if the validity or the veracity of the goods are reduced. During transportation, you'd also want to cover the equipment that's actually being used to cool. You'd want to cover the vehicles themselves. I mean, if it's motor insurance, you'd want to cover the drivers. So it's the full value chain from the product to where it's being stored, to the equipment that's used to store, that's used to cool, to the vehicles themselves that are used to transport, to even the individuals that are transporting. So you could have a really comprehensive cover.
Right. So let me just say, hypothetically, looking at people that work with Dr. Stephanie and people that work with Mr. Isong, let's say this was a store, and I had goods in here stored, and probably had the, no, let's just say probably actually have the accurate data to prove that my system was working fine. Probably there was a system error. Let's say refrigeration system had an issue, and I have this coverage you're talking about, the full-on coverage, and I have a claim. Insurance companies can actually aid me out in that situation, right?
Absolutely, that's why we're there. I mean, you have the Figorr infrastructure, you've been tracking, we've got the data to demonstrate that you've been tracking, and something unexpected happens and the goods are damaged. That's when the insurance company steps in.
Right. Thank you very much for that. So that brings me back to you, Mr. Isong. Looking at no, you mentioned something which is something we should take into fact here, which is the fact that we're dealing with both educated, semi-educated, and illiterate people here. So based on what he has mentioned, the insurance would cover almost anything that they would have as long as it is within that data frame. How best do you think this can actually work with the people, and what is the framework you think can be done to break it down simply to the barest minimum for even the illiterate person to understand?
Insurance is not a great science, so to speak, that you say somebody will understand. Goods have been insured since time immemorial, and it's still the same way they insure goods. The insurance person will basically come and insure something that doesn't need to be insured. That's how they make money. Let's say the truth. Yeah? Now, for you to make them to come and insure, you have to try as much as possible to have the integrity of that data. The integrity of that data is what is going to make him insure you. No matter what he says to you here. If he doesn't believe in that data, he will not answer to that claim. So how do you do it? That's the process we're talking about, creating those laws. For example, now, if he has an insurance person, wants to insure, and he has this tie up with Figorr, and Figorr shares, for example, you say there's a big trailer of whatever product, maybe say cheese from international airport going to Abuja. And from the point of loading, you share that data, the tracking data, with the insurance company. The insurance company now has eyes on that group. So if anything happens along the road, they will compare data with you. That brings the claim, the integrity of the claim. I'm not an insurance man, but I will tell you, the goods in transit they are talking about, don't even go there. Because you cannot prove it to him, because he doesn't have a tool for you to prove it to him. If you tell him you track that thing, Figorr is not God, either is Figorr government or whatever. So for you to be able to have that seamless operation, you have to tie Figorr to the operations and processes of the insurance company, where they will now have a department on cold chain. That's the easiest way for them to go about it. When you are trying to apply insurance as we know it, like dry insurance, where we move them, say grains, rice, you are paying GIT on moving bags of rice. It will not apply when you are moving ginger, tomatoes, and all. We have companies that come to Nigeria, they come and take ginger, they take it out of Nigeria. The insurance they use is not the insurance that he will be talking about. So it is now for the insurance people to identify that this sector we can make money from it, because that's what's going to bring them there. because they are not an NGO. They're a business that needs to make money. So for them to come and make money, they have to know that, okay, this field, we can make money from it. So once they have the comfort of somebody like Figorr, and they tie and they see the integrity of Figorr's solution cannot be compromised, because in Nigeria, we compromise anything. When they are sure about that, I can bet you they would want to do business with even the farmer that can't even speak English. Now, the farmer or the middleman that moves goods from, say, Kano to Lagos, he knows what insurance is. And the reason why the farmer doesn't want to insure is because the claim is the problem for him, not to pay the GIT fees. Because from time immemorial, from experience, from word of mouth, from people that are talking to one person to another person, say, okay, I had GIT on my goods, and we are still talking to the insurance company, we are going back and forth. They say I should go and bring my mother's leg and my mother's arm. That's where the problem lies, because either the insurance company doesn't believe you, or the processes that have been put in place can be compromised in a way that the insurance company cannot. And I don't like going around in circles. If I want to solve something, let's just solve it. If the insurance company says, okay, if you have Figorr, let's use Figorr as quote unquote like some kind of certification. If you have Figorr and you pay your GIT, and you pay this, we would insure you at XYZ percentage. That's the way the business should be. But when you are talking about this GIT, the way the conversation I'm having with him now, I can bet you that conversation will not even work. Because people have done it before now. Even this conversation, insurance man, that's what I'm saying. You understand? People have done it several times. Even dry goods. Say somebody moving biscuits from Lagos to Sokoto, and on the way, the truck fell, and all the biscuits spilled, and water came, rain beat the biscuit, and biscuit turned to mashed potato or whatever. Then they call the insurance man. Insurance man, our biscuits. Yeah, okay. Then you now begin to hear all kinds of technicalities that will lead nowhere. I'm not trying to put your industry down, but say the way I see it, Figorr knows me. That's why federal government wants. If you want to do the business, just do it right. So Figorr, the only thing I can advise you on this is that you tie your product in a very legal way to the insurance company. When I mean legal, quote unquote legal, not party or friend. You put it down and say, this, if someone meets this requirement, then the goods on transit, if there's a problem, this will kick in. That is when you begin to see people will begin to come and use his product and use your product in extension. So it is not you needing insurance company, it's the insurance company needing you. So don't think that it's you that need insurance company. No, it's they that need you. Because that is a new source of revenue income for them. And once they see the money that can be made, I can tell you how much you can make. The amount of money that can be made in what you do, what you are trying to do now, it looks small, but it's not small. If you want to go to developed clients, even don't go too far, go to South Africa, go to Kenya. You see all those roses and things they carry in Kenya. You know how much they insure them for? If those roses were grown in Nigeria, this man will insure those roses. He will not. But because of the way they structured their laws and the way they've structured everything, that is why the insurance company can play it. So now I just told him that we're trying to structure food and medicine in a way that is going to read the document. He will now see comfort in it. And part of that comfort he sees is what you are doing now. Whereby he now comes to meet you as Figorr and say, Figorr, I need you to help us with these processes when we want to do insurance. So it is them coming to meet you, and you will now tell them how you can have the partnership, cost of partnership, and things like that. So that is the way I will give you any advice that will grow your business. Because these insurance companies are very big and they have a lot of money. And we need them to be able to support businesses like yours so that you can grow. And the fallout from your business growing is that it's going to help our agri sector grow, and it's going to bring integrity to our medical field. So that when we are moving medicine and all those diabetes medicines that you go to buy, you see the chemist man at Ajay has put it inside a fridge, he brings it out, you stick it to the person, and the person still dies, and he says diabetes medicine. medicine is gone. So that's the conversation I think you should have in your office or their office, that they need you. If they think they don't need you, keep on doing what you're doing. They'll come back in 2 years when they see the stream of income. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, you want to give a direct response?
I think, first of all, I can't disagree with what he said. I mean, our GIT policy is very good. So if your goods do, your truck goes down, your big skits become mush, we will pay. just, but yes, no, I totally agree with the fact that as an insurance company, we absolutely need a source that gives us credible data. And that's exactly what we're going to do. From when we started the conversations, I've been very excited because you're always looking for new markets, new ways to grow. And this is what Figorr is opening up. And also, in terms of what I mentioned before, my passion in the insurance industry, in terms of driving resilience, whether it's food security or healthcare, this also plugs perfectly into that. So yes, absolutely, I totally agree. You do need what Figorr is doing, from a data, from a technology, from a deepening point of view, and deepening the insurance market as well. You know, I totally agree with you.
All right, so that brings me back to, I'm sorry, the mic is just passing through you, doctor. So now, Mr. Esong pointed out something very unique, which is the quality of data you give. And then, although you answered that earlier, but you also talked about the visibility of your data. And I know earlier we mentioned about providing the insurance company data at the point of underwriting and data at the point of claims. But he just pointed out something very unique, which is giving them visibility, more like the eyes in the sky, the drone kind of system. So how do you intend to go about this to ensure that Tangerine, when insuring Dr. Stephanie's colleagues or Mr. Esong's colleagues, that they have the credible data? So if I'm moving goods from the airport down to, let's say, Gwagwalada, wherever the point is, I know that this is it. And when I come for claims, I know that Mr. Judah is going to tell me this is the claim, not that I should bring my grandfather's certificate, just like Mr. Esong mentioned.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to mention to also, Mr. Alex, we have a partnership now with Tangerine, which would basically cover products stored in particular facilities. When, machinery breaks down, they're willing to cover cold chain products at this point in time. And this is powered through our data, right? On GIT, we're still in conversations on that. But I mean, there's progress and we're making progress on that. In terms of providing visibility, I think our system is a real-time system, right? And anybody that has access to a phone, anybody that has access to a laptop can actually go and see what the data is. You can get your notifications through SMS and things like that. So there's visibility. But I think it's also in the model that we work out with the insurance partners, right? So today, they may need it when underwriting. They may need it during claims management. But if they also want to set up a department or set up a team that actually sees, especially for maybe like GIT, that are maybe 3 days kind of thing, that you need somebody to keep an eye on it, there's also visibility and accessibility to that sort of data through a platform which is ready today, right? So there's that form of visibility that we can actually provide to the insurance companies as well as anybody who may need that sort of information. So it's totally up to the working model between Figorr and the insurance company.
Thank you very much. So before we continue, we are able to entertain some of your questions after this, as well as the online people. You can send in your questions. So I won't pass again, Dr. Stephanie, please. So we kind of noticed the fact that whether we like it or not, losses incurred when moving these goods, especially moving medical products, at the end of the day, get transferred in terms of pricing. So let's say we get insurance now. You're smiling. So let's say we get insurance now, and then not like, let's say we have insurance now, and then your people get to adopt these policies that kind of like ensures that they are protected and also is tied to Figorr's products. Does this in any way positively affect pricing of medication?
Okay, so I think this would obviously purely be speaking to the private sector, but I can't figure out how that would apply in the public sector. Mostly because actually I was gonna ask him the question that how if the government is agreeing to trash the commodity if it's vaccines. So technically that's Federal Ministry of Health money that's been trashed. How are they going to make sure that their staff don't just misbehave and keep trashing things? And that sort of because I mean the staff doesn't really care. I wouldn't lie to you. At the PhD level, do they really care if it gets trashed? No. They're still gonna get their salary, right? So how does federal government make sure that it's not their money that's wasting? But I mean that's a conversation for another day. But so I think that conversation is really more from the private companies. So the private, the manufacturers who are manufacturing the oxytocins and the insulin, even though I don't think we have anybody locally manufacturing insulin yet. But the oxytocins and the other sort of cold chain commodities in Nigeria and the impact on pricing, like you said, on obviously I'm not 100% sure of the system or whatever, so I may add some of the costs at the end of the day because I know that maybe if I send 50, maybe only 20 might end up getting there. So let me just mark it up now from the beginning, so that I know that at the end of the day I might still end up getting the price of 50. So obviously something like the Figorr solution would be very useful to them as well to make sure that, I mean, if they can see that, I mean, most of it is getting there in the right temperature and the right quality and stuff, then maybe I don't really need to mark it up that much because I know that the quality is still going to be maintained by the end of the day. So I think, yes, it may affect prices, but I mean, DJ will tell you when it comes to manufacturing locally, there's a lot of things that goes into the price of the commodity. I mean, the same way it affects every other manufacturing sector, electricity and all of that and all of that. And most of them don't even, the ingredients to make commodities are not manufactured locally. They're also imported. So there's also that affecting the pricing. But it may ultimately affect the price. But to what extent, I don't know.
Thank you very much. So before we go any further, I would like to entertain questions now. So if you have a question, you could just lift up your hand. I'll bring the mic to you. And also one person there. Any other question? Let's start with you. Please introduce yourself, your company, and your question.
Good afternoon. My name is Gaddafi. I'm from Cham Dairies. I would like to say we're having a very realistic conversation. I want to appreciate Mr. Isong coming from the agricultural perspective and the reality on ground around moving goods and GIT and how insurance can play a good part. Now, my question is, I would like to ask Figorr because we've been a client with Figorr. We've been using your product and it has been very well for us. Now that we are moving into insurance, part of the challenge we have is Mr. Isong has raised as regards the frequency of in moving the product, and because we deal in milk and dairy, now from farm to factory, it's almost on a regular basis. Now, the practicality around that insurance and how easy we can access that if we decide to is one question I want to answer, and I want you to answer. Secondly, is how realistic is what we're about to go into? Because for the average farmer who has crops or has milk that is being transported, he wants to understand if you understand what he is going through. Sometimes subscribing is not the issue. Reclaiming that or claiming the damages, how easy you can access that. So the question that was asked by Mr. Isong that I'm also trying to reiterate is if your device or your product will be a useful foundation or a benchmark for the insurance company to say, yeah, we can see that from this is confirmed that this has happened, so we can just give you access to that. I don't know if you understand my question.
Yes, I think I understand the question, but I think he would be better placed to answer that question. But what I can say is one of the key things that I know the insurance companies look out for is to prove that there was no negligence, right? And that's where our data comes in. right? So if we're able to capture the necessary data and pass that on to the guy who is supposed to pay the claims. So I would also pass the mic to the guy who is supposed to pay the claims because he'll be able to provide. Okay.
Um, I think one question I missed was, we transport raw milk from farm to factory.
Yeah.
And the current device we're having from you can only monitor that external temperature from within the room. Is there any plan to develop other devices that can be inserted inside
Inside the milk.
inside whatever product or food?
Yeah. Okay. So on the product part, yes, I can answer that. Yes, we have a new technology that is able to capture internal and external temperature. So I think we can share more light on that subsequently. But yes, there's a technology for that to support that. Then I'll pass on the mic.
I think from the point of view of the insurance, if there's no negligence, and I think Mr. Issa mentioned as well, fraud involved, and if you have been keyed into, let's use Figorr again as a certificate, as Mr. Issa said, if you've been keyed into Figorr and you have both the external and the internal tracking, so we can see that in the transportation of these goods, the internal temperature was maintained at the appropriate or the agreed level. Because in terms of the policy you'll have the insurance company, it would be specific. For these sorts of goods, we know the temperature range that it should be kept under. And if that can be tracked and it can be taken to the storage facility and that's all ticked off, and then you get to the storage facility and for whatever reason, there's damage to the product or it's not at the appropriate quality, that's when the insurance will kick in. But at that point, you have done everything that you should have done. It has been tracked and the evidence has been given, and that is why you have insurance.
All right. Another question here. Sorry, what was the question here? Oh, get over.
Yeah, thank you and a very good afternoon to all of you. My name is Dhananjay, but people call me DJ, somebody who doesn't play music, but I love music. First of all, thank you ARC for putting this together. This has been a most important and a missing piece in the health sector. And I believe what Mr. Isong said, in all sectors, not only business. It's good to see technologically advanced partners like the West Africa, Mr. Isong, who has a wealth of experience in this. And talking to private sectors, in such forum really adds value to each and every one of us sitting here. And also insurance risking and de-risking has been always the goal and motto of every business house, right? Good to see Tangerine being here and Figorr. We have initially started the conversation with Grid, and now I think Abiola was one of your, So my question to Figorr now is that, can you please help us tell what are the certifications that you have for your devices? Because what happens is whenever we, like as Philips, we have been doing this cold chain for over 12, 13 years now, right? And we have 228 and minus 15 to minus 25 degrees. And we transport it to places like Makurdi, Yobe, Damatru, right? Taraba, Takum, which is the end of Cameroon border, right? And so there has been an existing channel which is being used. Now, we would like to really know what value as Figorr can add and bringing the insurance partners with you, because that has always been a challenge. Rightly, what Mr. Isong said about the GIT. Yeah, I keep coming to him because he made some very valid points in terms of validation exercise. Yeah, and so again, question to you is: are your things validated, and do you also provide services for calibration, validation? Because what happens is when you transport in form of a cold truck, cold chain vehicle, right? Which I saw some of the pictures on this, right? And those who, if the shipments are not big, okay, you use the small cold chain boxes, styrofoam boxes. Now, we all know we don't get those styrofoam boxes easily in Nigeria. So what you have to do is you have to import it, right? Challenge again, we all know about the reverse logistic and getting them back. So the second question is to the insurance. Sorry, I'm trying to get your name. Ayuba? Sorry. Abayomi. Okay, Abayomi. Sorry. So, Mr. Abayomi, what are the various policies that you have for private sector? Okay, it's a cold chain transportation. Do you insure a truck vehicle which is going, or do you also do small boxes which go on a regular basis to countries? So, what are the various policies that you have? We'd like to know that. And finally, we just want to appreciate, Mr. Alex Isong for really putting that and really hitting hard on the insurance and the figure, because that's the need of the hour today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So who goes first? There you go.
Yeah, I can go first. Thank you very much for the question. So on certifications, we have pretty much every certification that any sensor manufacturer across the world will provide. So from your EMCs to your RF, to your health and safety. You also have your calibration certificates, which are ISO 17025, which is issued on a 12-month basis, every annual basis, every year. So those are some of the certifications that we provide for our devices. In terms of value, because your shipments, like we understand from local context, not every shipment goes in a cold truck. Shipments go in styrofoam boxes. So, we have sensors that feed into styrofoam boxes and are able to communicate in real time. So it's just like dropping a mobile phone inside a styrofoam box, and it communicates in real time where the product is, what the storage conditions are, that's temperature, humidity, and has the ability to send excursion reports to your phone or to your email, wherever it may be. Another value that I think we bring to the table is being able to provide you with historical information, reports which could happen weekly, quarterly, monthly, so that you can actually do performance evaluation for your operations. And then lastly, I think one of the most important things that we're trying to bring on board is access to insurance, right? So that you can actually have that full coverage. So like we like to say, or I like to say, probably I say it a lot to myself, is that we help businesses preempt and prevent losses. But if losses happen, we should be able to help you cover it. So that's where we're trying to bring the insurance companies on board to play a role.
Thank you for the question. I think for us in the insurance industry, in terms of what's covered, whether it's the truck or the other devices that you're using to transport, what is key is the ability to be able to track the goods end to end, and track also the condition in which those goods are transported. So long as we have the confidence in the data, and also the tracking, and I think it's really the policy is there on an all risks basis. So, and that's where for me, we were very pre-Figorr. It probably would have been a difficult conversation. I mean, to be honest, but with the Figorr solution, I think it would then become a conversation which we would be excited to have. Because now we can track, now we can see the condition of the goods, now we can understand that it's the unexpected that we're really covering, not really what we know is going to happen.
So is it just restricted to clients who have Figorr, or is it extended to other partners as well?
No, we were using Figorr, from what Isaac said, as a certificate. So that sort of solution that enables you to track the goods and also to track the condition in which those goods are being transported.
All right. We have one question here, but before we go to your question, there's an online question that says, I think it still goes to Tega and Abayomi. Sorry, Doctor and Mr. Ison. So could you share some insight on the current state of insurance coverage in the cold chain industry and how Figorr aims to improve it? So I think it goes to you first, Mr. Yeah.
Me first. Yes. The current state of insurance, I think, as Mr. Isong said, for you to have insurance in the cold chain industry, or I think, or was it the doctor that mentioned that? You need the data. And without the data, it's really hard to have a discussion around the information you need to insure. Because insurance is all about when the unexpected happens. When there's a certainty of something happening, then it's probably savings. It's really no longer insurance. So historically, pre-Figorr in the cold chain sector, it was hard to have that insurance conversation. But now what I'm excited about is now we can start having that conversation. Now we can start really designing those products. Now the data is there. So now the solutions can be put in place.
Thank you very much.
My name is Sheyi Ojeni. I'm the CEO for Otrak. Otrak is in most of the time activities in the health sector. There are two things I quickly want to call our attention to. The math, the Mr. Abayomi. By the way, Abayomi was going to say there is relatively nothing. That was what I was expecting. He just went to brandish some of his last presentation. There was nothing between coaching and insurance before now. And my own challenge when Figorr was talking about the partnership that they is it that they have or they are going to have? If they're going to have, I think it will be necessary that we know what the partnership look like. Because I know that subsequently, the moment Tangerine start doing something, one other insurance company is also interested, one other insurance company, that would be very, very good. But I will expect Figorr to do a whole lot of work so that it can be really easier for any other insurance company that wants to probably stem from the interest of Tangerine in this. And at that point in time, Tangerine will not come and break our neck with one, what do you guys call your premium something? Yeah. Because that's what they will do. They are the only company that is doing it. And at the end of the day, they're going to collect 50% of all those things. So please let that be sorted out as early as possible. Then my last question is to Mr. Iso. And let me just quickly so that when after you can when she mentioned about the issue of vaccines and trashing vaccines, I just laughed because I want to tell Mr. Insong that please, when you are the much you're doing in the in bringing out policies, please go down to the roots because it seems his inclination is much more into agri. And when the policies are going to be done, they're going to be done in a picture of the agri sector. The health sector is a total rock. I don't want to mention the PHC. I wanted to take COVAX jab. And they told me they're going to give me Pfizer. And I was like, Pfizer? Okay, by the time they brought the Pfizer, this water, the temperature of this water was better than the Pfizer they gave to me. And I was like, so how many people are you going to kill? Because that's just it about it. There is relatively nothing. And when she was talking about giving it to a contractor, and I was like, an average civil servant is not interested in the quality of what you brought. So we're distributed more than 1 billion vaccine. My technical guy is in here. And when you get there, and you're struggling on the way to make sure that you get there at a particular temperature, when you get there, the guy said, leave the things on the table. I'm like, no, this thing is supposed to be under -10. This thing. He said, oh boy, bring your paper, make a sign. The moment they sign, your job has finished. Please, you can go. And they're going to tell you that it's going to be like that for the next 2 days because they don't even have stereo, unless you're going to drop your own. And you're saying, if I drop my own, the temperature is even rising inside the stereo. But said, Oga, we are not here waiting at all. Please, you can go. So when you're coming with your policies, please go to the nitty-gritty of what is involved and the rot in the Nigerian system, so that at the end of the day, you will not just bring policies that will, at the end of the day, not make any impact whatsoever in the life of people, or in the life of the generality of the people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sheyi. You are an Otakwa member, right? You don't think so? You are. Go and pay your dues. I know you are. I know every Otakwa member. So you should know I'm on top of my game. Mm-hmm. Now, when you are talking about what you just said, I was smiling in my belly. You know why I was smiling? Because this particular policy that is coming out is actually private sector driven. That's why I'm on it. I don't work for government. I'm not a civil servant. And like you said, civil servants are not interested in all those things. They're just only interested in who wants to supply it and where they'll get their cut from. Don't record me. And then, it's we understand all that. I understand where you're coming from. So what I'm trying to say to you now is that we have people that are in the medical field, people that are doing it. We have Otakwa members that are in what you are doing. Even you are Otakwa. What am I even saying? You are Otakwa member. So even if you did not add to the document, right? But there are people like you that have added to the document. So the policy you would see is a policy that you'll be happy with. Why I say this is because, you see, all those leakages, the gaps and things like that are gaps that we have covered. And we're trying to take out, that's why I was talking to you about enforcement. It's enforcement that is what you're talking about, putting vaccines on the table. If there was a body that was enforcing well, because I know the Nigerian factor will come into enforcement, because by the time you put customs will collect something for enforcement. If you put immigration, anybody you put, they must collect some kind of tax. But that we are trying to work against. I won't say we are going to be able to remove all that 100%, because in Nigeria, you cannot remove that fact. But I can tell you for a fact that any policy in Nigeria that is private sector driven always has a chance of working, or even if it's not, at least we'll be scratching 80%, 85% to get there. If it's civil servants, like she was saying, she actually asked me a question when he was saying something about who's going to enforce. Federal Ministry of Health is not enforcing. Federal Ministry of Health is just writing policy. We are going to arrive at the person that will enforce. And that person that will enforce will now come and enforce what you just said and what she's saying. And what we are trying to do is, we are trying as much as possible to look at the government agency that will least give us stress, that will least not be, because you see, that enforcement can now become a total roadblock in doing what we are doing. For example, I can tell you the way they move fish and chicken from Lagos to, say, Abuja. They don't move it in cold trucks. They just put it in a cold thing. It will melt. When it gets to Abuja, they'll pack all the fish and throw it inside cold room and freeze it again. That one, if you do that one in the United States, they'll destroy that. Now, the people that are doing it in Nigeria, maybe you put custom and he comes and he finds out that you have done that. He will confiscate it and take it to his kitchen or sell it. When he confiscates fish, then chicken and tomatoes and pepper, stew don't land. You understand? So basically, what we are trying to do is that we are trying as much as possible to mitigate against the Nigerian factor. The Nigerian factor, quote unquote. All this is we are talking about. We are not looking to reinvent the wheel. We are not looking to. We are looking to cut out that Nigerian thing, even from the insurance point of view. He's talking his insurance from a Nigerian point of view. Because if you are talking to an insurer in London, America, he's not going to be saying what he's saying right now. It's because of the way we are. Because he wants to cut away inefficiency, fraud, you understand, from the system so that he can actually pay well. And when he finally arrives at a conclusion that, okay, your claim is genuine, then he begins to look for a way to cut that claim so that it doesn't pay you as much as you pay. So as much as we are looking at doing that, we are looking at insurance too. The insurer, the people that are regulating the insurer, to say that if somebody meets XYZ this, that, and you have agreed this, you must pay. That's the operational word there. You must pay, not you will be thinking you want to pay. Don't think it. You must pay. That will now give comfort to people like him to be able to know that he can go to sleep by putting GIT on his good. Because he doesn't know he doesn't need to go and struggle with the insurance company to come and satisfy that GIT claim. You understand? So I understand where you're coming from and things like that. It will change. It will change. That's why we in private sector are always advocating, going there, and it's a Federal Ministry of Health policy, not Agri. Agri have their own policy. This same thing you're talking about. So what we have done is marry all these things together, because one thing about our government is that they don't talk to themselves. Even in the same ministry, you see a Department of Nutrition and Department of Animal Husbandry, they don't talk to themselves. If nutrition crosses into animal husbandry, you see the way they will push back. So, that inefficiency is already in the system. So for you to take out that inefficiency, you have to be like a clearinghouse for all their egos and their whatever. So that we in the private sector, and we Nigerians that need to get good medicine, that need to eat good food, we need to come together and say, government, we understand your problem. Yeah? Take your own. Give unto Caesar what is Caesar in Nigeria. Take. Let us go. Let's coach and breathe, according to the politicians, right? So, Mr. Jenny, don't worry about that. The policy that is coming out for you and your people in that field is not the kind of policy that you look at and say, "This is no. Don't worry about that." When it's going to be defended in the House, if you want to come, you will come. I will drag you along after I've paid your dues, obviously, and take you there so that you can sit down in the gallery and see the conversation and how it's being defended and protected, so that people like him can have a new business stream of income that will now, you have the domino effect into Mr. Figor's stream of income. And all what they are doing is going to raise the quality of what we are doing in Nigeria, because we are looking to do food security and to export to other countries so that we can make dollars, because now our money has crashed. So the government is looking at it. So what Mr. Figorr is doing, he thinks he's doing business, but for us, it is actually a government necessity that what he's doing is tied into the policy that we are doing. So when he comes and is selling his business, he's selling it as a business, but we are selling it as a solution so that he can do his job. You can get security, you can get comfort, and he can grow. You can grow as a business. So let me leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Figorr.
Yes, just to speak to working with multiple partners. I think one key thing for us was to identify the right kind of partnerships. Because like you've said, or like one of the things we've heard today is the fact that there are certain insurance companies that, yes, you have an agreement, you meet certain requirements, but they don't pay at the end of the day, right? So we're also being very keen on that aspect of being very meticulous about the right kind of partnerships. So, and this is why, we approached Tangerine. It's not like we didn't speak to, other insurance companies, but we had to do our own vetting, because first and foremost, the people that we see, when we're thinking about this whole thing, the people we're thinking about were our existing customers, right? And to maintain that trust with the existing customers, we have to give them something that works, right? And so hence the agreement to work with, Tangerine first, as the insurance partner. So Poltrack has been an outstanding partner. So definitely, I'm sure Mr. Abayomi will also guarantee that, there'll be coverage for all existing customers that have, the right way of tracking.
All right. Thank you very much. We have one question online before we meet. I'm coming to you, sir. So I think this goes to Tega again. Beyond measuring and capturing temperature, are there other data points or parameters Figorr captures, like speed, acceleration, which will enable insurance companies have a clear picture of what's transpired to enable them process claims?
Yes. Yes. So what we do is, like I said, there are two base points, quantitative and qualitative, right? So quantitative refers to count, qualitative refers to things like temperature, humidity, location. Once you have location and you have location, you're able to determine things like speed, right? So there's this point, there's the next point, the distance between them. how many minutes did it take for you to move from point A to point B? That's pretty much how to calculate speed. So yes, all those parameters are also included in the sort of data that we capture.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg Rioga from DHL Global Forwarding. I want to use the opportunity to thank the panelists. The nice time with you guys. And also, Mr. Shea, thank you for that question. I was about to dive into that question. So I'll be coming from the point of compliance. We know DHL to be a compliant company. And my question now will go to the four parties. It's more like a partnership between the private sector, Figorr, insurance, and the government, or I should say it's not from the government, but Mr. Isong representing the government. So what will be in place? Okay. Correction, sir. I take my words back. So my question is, will there be a form of compliance requirement for the four parties? When I say compliance requirement, what will be in place for Figorr to continue business on this line? What will be in place for the insurance? Because now you're giving instances that some insurance company didn't have what it takes for this. And once this thing kicks off, others will come in. It's a Nigerian factor. So what would be that requirement, compliance requirement? And also for the private sector, for the customer, will there be a requirement, compliance requirement? Then the enforcer. Okay, let me keep my question for the enforcer because we are yet to know who will enforce. Maybe the government agency or a private sector. Thank you.
So okay. I think from a compliance standpoint, I would try and interpret the question the way I understand it, right? So in the way I understand it is, what would be the requirements to get other insurance companies on board for this sort of thing, right? Yeah. So for me, I think it's trust, right? And we have we've spoken to a number of people, right, to understand which insurance companies are they comfortable working with. We know the ones that have the bad reputation, right? And we know the ones that have, the good reputation. But also, this sort of technology or this sort of solution is also for insurance companies that are innovative, right? That are open to innovation. Because the reason why you've not been getting this sort of policies on the market is because a number of the insurance companies are very, very traditional, right? And they don't want to, loss is almost, certain. So, I think in terms of what we look out for from the insurance companies are innovation, companies that will pay claims, right? And companies that are willing to, that have a bigger mandate than, just making money. Because this also involves some type of, mission to kind of, contribute to food security, to contribute to access to good health. Those are some of the things that have to be at the core values of this sort of insurance companies that we can partner with. Because it's a problem. It's a problem that has existed for a very long time. And being able to solve it means that for us, we think about it from the angle of how many people would then have access to food at affordable prices, how many people will have access to medication at affordable prices, how many people would have access to quality medication as well, quality quality food and things like that. So that's how we look at it, and so we look for partners in that kind of line. And I think Tangerine is one of those partners. So maybe I could also pass on the mic to.
I think for us, in terms of, I know you call it compliance, but for me, it's more about values alignment, transparency, integrity. With Figorr, from conversations we're having, you can already tell that the values are aligned in terms of what we're trying to do. It's not just about the insurance product or Figorr's offering. There's more about the resilience of our country as a whole. There's more about food security. There's more about making sure that that the healthcare provision is adequate. So for us, that there is a higher vision, you could say. So there, our values are aligned. So even in terms of the customers, we would want to make sure that those values are aligned as well. Customers are transparent with their information. I think that for us is absolutely key. So when we're thinking of partners that we're going to work with, is those that are willing and able and comfortable with sharing their information freely. firstly on this platform and on other platforms, and having the understanding that yes, we're talking about products. Yes, of course, we're here to make money, but there is also the drive of making sure we have a resilient country. I think that for us is really.
Thank you very much. I'm not talking for government, but let me infer for government. This business that they're talking in between Figorr and insurance company is a very developed industry outside Nigeria, and for them, they are kind of nascent now because they just started. And I'm very happy. Like I said, I was very happy about their collaboration. Before I came here this morning, I was struggling with the insurance company to bring on board a project we were doing. And I sat down here and I found somebody. I didn't have to go far away. So I have business for him already. So in compliance, basically, it is not about Figorr or the insurance company. It's about the government. It's the policy direction of government. It's government. If government says, do like this, that is what is going to water his business and grow his own business. So looking at compliance from what you just said, they are both tools of compliance. The way we look at it is a tool for us to achieve compliance in the cold chain value system of Nigeria, be it in the medical field, in food, cosmetics, human organs. It's the field is wide. So now what we are trying to do is to create the regulations and standards. So in that regulations and standards for coaching, his chapter, I can't remember the number, his part is there. His own part is there. So they are all components of that. They are like bullet points, all of them are like bullet points. You understand what I mean? So the compliance is not for Figorr. We in compliance, let me say we now because I'm writing. I can as well say what Figorr is doing has not met. We want him to use another different ISO. I can say I don't want that. I want it to meet this standard or that standard. I can just create hurdles for him and begin to jump like a monkey. You understand? I can go to insurance and say, look, if you don't do X, Y, Z, this, I'm going to bring down your insurance, amount of insurance and places you can play, just to twist you so that you can do insurance in cold chain. Government is strong. So the conversation between both of you is predicated on the document that we are going to now bring to the public space that will now make you operate. Say, okay, if we now write, like I'm leaning towards Figorr because it's my member, and I go there and I write, and I say, any goods that is not going in cold chain cannot leave Lagos. I'm not saying you can't carry it, cannot leave Lagos. That means you must meet that standard. And for you to meet that standard, what do? You can only give me Figorr certification. They will knock down this. That's really good business. There are a lot of billionaires in Nigeria that's really make their money. So compliance, leave that compliance thing out of it. Just do your own bit. Let us be happy with the product that you are going to give. So if that your product looks like is pandering towards you making money, we have a way to untwist you so that you are able to do it in a way that he would enjoy your service. So the compliance thing, let us look at it from government point of view. Figorr, keep doing what you are doing. Insurance man, keep collecting our money. You be wishing that a good policy will come out. But I can assure you that in that policy thing, I've taken care of him. You understand? And him. So that is the way compliance is going to be done. Because before now, as we speak, we don't have any regulations on coaching in Nigeria. India has regulations on coaching. They have a big document. India. Anything you want to do in coaching in India, there's a regulation. Plenty code. Code this, India code this, India code that, India code this, India avocado, banana, beans, blah, blah, blah. In Nigeria, we just start coding. We don't have regulations and standards. So that regulations and standards that we are trying to create now, by building Nigerian coaching regulations and standards, is going to take care of what it's doing. But for now, what they are doing is taking care of the ecosystem before government now introduces the coaching regulations and standard, which will give comfort to every business person, which will now identify the institution in Nigeria that would enforce it. And when I mean enforcement, it's not just coming to collect certificate and say, okay, you are coaching enabled. No, they will be on the highway waiting for you. So that when you are bringing it at the airport, the road, as you are bringing that medicine, maybe she has put the what they call it, the styrofoam box of a liver in the back seat of her car, and she's zooming off from Lagos to Ibadan. She wants to go and deliver liver. They will stop her on the road, arrest her and deliver, and she'll go and explain how this, because it doesn't meet any standard. So what we are doing now, good tool, but I can tell you that give us 1 year, 2 years, it will be a different ball game. The compliance will be there. Thank you.
Please, I think Dr. Stephanie, you away from the mic.
I wasn't sure which sector I was supposed to be speaking for. No, I beg, please.
Speak for the
I
private.
can't speak for government, please. I mean, I guess maybe I can speak for the pharmaceutical manufacturers, I guess. I think really it would be maybe just getting them to understand the importance of the data and tracking, and, making sure that even you as a manufacturer, you're doing the best that you can to make sure that while it's in your custody and while it is still within your sphere of influence, at least you are keeping to the standards, you are adopting a Figorr. I think that's still something that we're still struggling in terms of getting some of the companies to even understand value of. Okay, is getting the companies to understand the value of a tool or a technology like a Figorr. Understanding that it is actually quite critical to your work, especially if you are manufacturing cold chain. I mean, for you as a company to be able to say, my oxytocin is quality and is whatever, you actually need this. You can't use word of mouth, and you can't use a certificate. You can't use, you need to actually be able to show people data to show that the quality is maintained. And nobody, I mean, you can't argue with data. Data is data. But speaking English, I mean, So I think for them, it's also getting the companies to understand that this is actually very valuable to them. This is the work that I guess we've been doing with Figorr in terms of, which is I think what DJ touched on. We've been trying to get the companies to understand. We've had many sessions where we try to get Figorr to explain to them. Even we've had sessions where we've had Figorr explain to government as well. And I can't remember if anybody answered us that day, but we're trying to get them to see the value. We're trying to get government as well as private sector to see the value. And I think that's what we continue to do with Figorr and the team.
All right. Do we have another question? Right. One more question over there.
Good afternoon. My name is Gabriel, and I'm from SAP. Okay, my name is Gabriel. I'm from a company SAP, which I'm trying to set up a cold chain in the perishable industry. Well, my question for the insurer is in your policy, because in Nigeria we know that we have bad infrastructure, which is our road, and then in case of the road during the transportation of perishable goods, if anything happens or negligence of the driver, what would be in that policy?
I mean, let's leave aside the negligence of the driver. and I'm sure we can discuss that separately, but we understand the environment where we operate. We know the state of our roads, and I guess that's where also in terms of data, there are routes you can take, in terms of transporting. There are better routes than others, but we understand the nature of the roads. I think for us, the key is to make sure, specifically in terms of cold chain, the nature of the vehicles that are transporting, probably even the experience of the drivers that are taking the goods, the quality of the goods, and also the condition in which the goods are being transported. Once you've taken care of those issues, and we're tracking the speed and we're tracking a few other things. Once you've taken care of those, then the unforeseen, should I say, because okay, maybe it was raining and there was a pothole and
and there was an accident. I mean, that's why we're there. So the nature of the road is the nature of the road. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of advocacy you can do to improve the quality of our roads, but really, that's beyond our scope. But in terms of once you've done everything you need to do, you partner with someone like Figorr, we're tracking what we need to track, and then the unexpected happens. As I always say, that's why insurance is.
So before we round up, just one last question for Dr. Stephanie and Mr. Isong. So Dr. Stephanie will go first, so you don't run away. So the question is, considering the development of this insurance policy, how can it be done such that collectively can be gotten by a group, which would further push down the cost of insurance, possibly? So the person is actually asking, as a group, let's say for Mr. Iso.
Thank you so much. You don't have to harass her because she's on your panel. Yeah. Let me answer it for you. Collectively, what you do when you are looking for insurance, you can actually be under a cooperative, a farmer cooperative, or in the medical field, maybe you have, say, 2, 3, 4, 5, what do we call them in Nigeria? Chemists, pharmacy. They have a cooperative, or maybe let's just call it Obioma Pharmacists Association, like in Onitsha, where there are 10 of them. Then, the cooperative, if they meet all the requirements, they can come and meet them so that they can have, do something like that in agric every time. So once they're under a cooperative, because you cannot buy the policy by yourself, you share the policy under your cooperative. So I'm hoping if they don't have that kind of product, it's something they can look into. Because by the time you vet the cooperative will know all their members and be able to take responsibility for all their members. And that's the only way you can go about it, by being a collective. Once you're a collective, you can now be able to get any kind of support you want to get, either from government, insurance, or so I believe that's the way to go about it. Maybe she has a different idea. Thank you.
I actually think I agree. I mean, like you rightly mentioned, there are most of these guys are in cooperatives or groups or associations. I mean, you have PMG Man for pharmaceutical manufacturers, you have QDAN for wholesalers, you have so many associations and groups, depending on what level you're looking at. So it's potentially, and all these groups have standards, like you said. There are certain regulations that you have to meet to be a member of those associations, so quality standards and the likes. So it's potentially maybe, I guess, getting Figorr help us figure out how we're going to get discounts for. We also have a membership platform as well, but a lot of the members on our platform are also members of other associations as well. So, I mean, we also have partnerships with those associations as well. So we're happy to sort of be the midwife of that conversation.
So I think this comes from me, Mr. Judah. So if this is possible, because it's like saying I'm going to the market to buy something and they're not selling it in the market. Are you selling this sort of market? Do you have the room to accommodate a cooperative or this sort of policy?
I mean, I think the concept of affinity groups is a standard in the insurance industry. So collective or cooperative, as you call it, who come together under an umbrella to get more favorable terms than any one of them could get individually. So yes, that is a standard offering, and I'm sure the cooperative would get benefits from Figorr because they're coming in bulk, and they'd also get benefits from insurance.
All right, thank you very much. To this end, I'll be bringing the end of this session, and help me join in thanking Tega, Mr. Isong, Dr. Stephanie, and Mr. Jude.
Thank you very much for that very interesting session. I like to think of the cold chain sector as an ecosystem because okay. So I was saying that I like to think of the cold chain sector as an ecosystem because all the businesses are independent of each other. Because at the end of the day, we're all trying to meet the SDG 3 of sustainable well-being for both young and old. So thank you again to our virtual guest and online guest. As we move forward, we would have a networking session and
how important it is for us for businesses that deals with temperature sensitive products to maintain the product quality of this product at all time. And for them to be able to maintain this product quality at all time, it's actually achievable through the use of cold chain infrastructures and aside from the human factor part of it. So for them to monitor in real time and ensure that this product maintain the right quality, then they require cold rooms and refrigerated trucks for the storage and the movement of this product at all time. Now, some of the challenges that businesses in the cold chains face over time that we've been able to note down is product wastage, which is as a result of insufficient access to these cooling services. So some of them can have this cooling solution maybe in their office, maybe where the warehouse is. But then at the point of moving this product from point A to point B, they do not have like a cooling truck in place for them to be able to properly move this product at all times to different locations. It could be from Lagos to Kano, and then they only have a truck that can actually move within the states. So it's a challenge for them to actually deliver to this other location, expand their business. So the problem that I'm mentioning here is the product wastage, where because they don't have this as cooling service in place for their business, or they have, but it's not enough for them to operate with, then at some point they might actually have issues relating to spoilage of this product that they have. And at that point in time, they would also lose revenue because they are unable to store their products properly. Another thing is because they do not have the cooling service in place for maybe for them to produce in large numbers, then it means that they would have a shortened shelf life where they wouldn't be actually able to meet up with even the demand if they have like high demand for their product, and they would also be able, if they can't also maintain the cooling solutions that they have as well, they would also be able to actually produce in large quantity or import in large quantity, depending on the kind of product that the business is dealing with. Now, because they also do not have visibility to what is actually happening in the cooling, the cold room or the cold truck that they have, sometimes they also face issues in that area. Sometimes they also face issues in that area. Let's say, for instance, I have a cold truck, and then my cold truck is moving from point A to point B. But then I do not have a solution that can actually allow me to see what is going on while the truck is in transit. At the end of the day, it can result to product wastage, and at the end of the day, now lead to me losing some of my revenue, some of the money that I've used in producing this product or importing this product. So from these are the problems that we've seen that people in the cold chain space face. Now, we know that, like I mentioned earlier, that using these cold trucks and refrigerated trucks and cold rooms is actually very vital for people working in the cold chain space. But at the same time, we all know how costly it is for you to acquire one or for you to maintain one of this. So, and it is very vital for you to have it. So that is why Figorr is setting up a new service, which is Zero. And Zero, the aim of Zero is to actually provide solutions to people in the cold chain space. So the way we work is we collaborate with people that have these cold trucks and cold rooms across Nigeria. We validate and verify that this cooling service that they have is working perfectly, and then we sign them up to work with us. So whenever customers are in need of cold trucks or cold rooms across Nigeria, they would always have access to be able to use this at any point in time. Now, how do we operate as a business? When I talk as a business, I'm actually speaking about Zero. So what we offer our infrastructure owners, I mentioned earlier that we sign up people that have cold rooms and cold trucks across Nigeria. And what do we offer them? Business visibility. So sometimes I've noticed that some people have these cold rooms or they have these cold trucks. And because of the high cost of maintenance, and maybe because they're only using a small portion of the cold room, they sometimes shut down these cold rooms. They're not using them, or they are not actually getting enough revenue that is coming in from that infrastructure that they currently own. So now what we are doing for people that have these infrastructures is we bring them on board as soon as we're sure that they have something that works perfectly. And then we now create an opportunity for them to showcase these infrastructures that they have, get customers to be able to use these infrastructures, utilize the assets that they have, and at the end of the day, generate revenue. And from the generating of revenue, they can also expand their business and also be able to properly maintain the infrastructure that they own. So this is what we offer our infrastructure owners: business visibility and increase in revenue. Now, currently, we have access to infrastructures in 21 states in Nigeria, and we're still working on getting to other states as well. And for the states listed here as well, we have different sizes for cold trucks and cold rooms. So we are still working on getting more options for customers that are in need of it. So currently, if you're currently here and then you have cold rooms or cold trucks that you like to sign up with us for rental service, then you can just call me after this session and I would definitely attend to you and give you some details. And if you're listening to hers online as well, on the chat box, a link will be shared for you to actually register, and we would definitely reach out to you as soon as possible if you have cold trucks or cold rooms that you would like to put up for rental. Now, for our clients, which are the people that are going to be using the cold trucks and cold rooms that we have registered on our platform, the benefits that they get from us is the access to the cold room, the cold room and the cold trucks, which means, for instance, you can be moving a product from, let's say, Ibadan to, let's say, Abuja, and on the road, there's a challenge, and maybe, let's say, around this Akure side, and then you need a truck around Akure that can actually take over from that person, or you need a cold room in that location where you can store the product till you resolve the issue, then you can always reach out to us and we would get you an option that you can work with them. So that is one of the things that we offer to our clients. Then we also offer you real-time temperature monitoring solution, which means that you don't have to own a cold room. You can actually rent a cold room, store your products in the cold room, and still have access to see the temperature, the humidity of the environment where your product is stored. My colleague will be speaking about our software solution that we offer at Figorr. And even from using the real-time monitoring solution for your coaching, infrastructure business with us, you would not only be able to monitor the temperature and humidity, you can also access the data from your end, and you would also get notified whenever it goes out of the required temperature threshold, which means you are aware the condition of your product, what the condition of a product is. Then another thing that we offer to our clients in this package is the insurance as well, which is what we are currently doing here today. So you're able to access insurance for this product that you store in our cold rooms or cold trucks. And also you are rest assured that your product is safe at all times, even if you're not currently where the product is. Now, these are the things that we offer our clients. And then the benefit you get from working with us as a partner is increased visibility, asset utilization, and increased revenue. And as a client, you'll be able to access cold rooms and cold trucks in different locations, and then you'll be able to monitor the condition of your product even when you're not there as well. And then you'll be able to have insurance coverage for your product as well. So if you are here as well or listening to me online and you actually want to rent a cold room or rent a cold truck with us, there are options for daily package, weekly, monthly, and then you can also rent the whole cold room or rent per pallet a certain percentage, a certain size of the cold room, depending on the location. So just the link will also be shared in the chat box. Kindly fill the link and make your request, and we will address that as soon as possible. Then, yes. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tosi. I know that a lot of us are already familiar with what the offerings that we provide, but I'm still just going to talk about it a little bit from the temperature monitoring aspect. So we know that through research, we know that 50% of cold chain products are wasted annually, and that's due to a couple of reasons. But the major ones are the poor infrastructure and poor visibility, which I believe that the panelists have already touched on. And I mean, it's a general problem everywhere. We know that. So even if we have very few cold chain infrastructure that are actually up to date. And even, it's not even getting access to them has been a problem. And that's what brought about the initiative of the Zero. Also, like Dr. Stephanie said, our power supply, God help us. And then transportation as well. On a normal day, something that would normally take a cold truck maybe a few hours, 14 hours or something to get to a particular destination, you'll be taking 2 to 3 days because of how our terrain is. Also, lack of skilled workforce. If people don't understand certain things, they won't be able to, or if they don't understand how important certain things are, they won't be able to take the proper measures. So you just have people doing things anyhow. Then, of course, for poor visibility, if you don't have visibility into the temperature conditions or your inventory access, you don't have visibility into any of that, you're going to have quality control issues. You may be having to overstock, or you're always running out of stock because you don't know what's going on in your inventory as well. You also run the risk of compliance. You have to now pay fines when you're not in compliance with the government and every other thing they've asked for. So what we are providing to you as a business is end-to-end visibility. We go from your real-time cold chain monitoring, where you're able to see all that through our software in real time, and then the inventory management solution. So that now helps you integrate the first in, first out principle. So you're minimizing your product waste, which of course is helping you with your revenue. You're not losing anything. And of course, now we have the insurance coverage thanks to our partnership with Tangerine as well. So we're able to give you that visibility from, the beginning to the last mile distribution as well. The benefits of, coming on board with us, you are improving your business operations, you're reducing your business expense, because at that point you are able to see and know what's going on within your business operations and make data-driven decisions. Also, you are able to get access to insurance through our current partnership, thanks to Tangerine again. So all of this is just streamlined. Also, of course, our customers' success is also our success. So this is speaking to the MPHCDA, and it's mostly about, during the COVID times where we're able to help them track in real time the vaccines that were being distributed across the 36 states of the country. So with that, they were able to make very good decisions because they knew where the vaccines were, they knew the temperature conditions and all of that. So that also helped them as well. Another organization were able to help Another organization were able to help, they had challenges that were about 56% before we came on board. But after they started using our services and, for their logistics and their storage conditions, that challenge had reduced to just 4%. So, we can all see that since, a lot of us already know what we do, I'm sure that we can, speak about the good, the value that Figorr brings to the cold chain industry. So please, once again, if you have any questions or if you want to make any inquiries, please feel free to reach out to any of us wearing the branded Figorr t-shirts and we'll be able to answer you. So thank you very much. And please, we would appreciate if you can network and build relationships while we, start the photo ops and then just enjoy refreshment generally. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A round of applause for our amazing panelists for doing justice to today's topic. On behalf of the amazing team at Figorr, we'd like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed guests, our engaging online audience. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to our partners at Tangerine, ARC, and Otakwa. We would like to wish everyone safe trip back to your respective destination. And please, we'd like to encourage you to take advantage of the networking session. And also, we have nice refreshments at the back. Thank you, everyone. A group picture. Okay, so we'd like to start with a group picture. If we can. Oh, this. Tega, attention is needed. I'd like to take a group picture. We'll just, everyone, everyone will come together first, then the panelists with, okay, panelists are taken. Okay, please can we have everyone for a group picture, please? I'd like to take a group picture. GD, this camera. Yes. Group pictures. Just you can arrange your photos. Yeah, group pictures. Picture time. Esther. Oh, okay.